Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari. I see Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
I just showed the first verse of the purport. I wasn't sure if we were all going to choose first.
I think Triveda Prabhu read yesterday, right? Text 4?
No, it's 34. He only finished the last chapter.
Oh. Well, that's kind of behind schedule then, right?
But Johnson didn't speak on anything.
What did he speak on?
He didn't speak on the verse I spoke on a couple weeks ago.
Oh.
So I figured maybe you'd cover yesterday's and today's, read the chapter summary, and then Dharmaseja's verses, and then yours. Dridika's verses, then yours. Or you could split it up. But basically now we have to cover up like one chapter summary and 1 through 23. So, but 4 is just the first report as well.
What was so good about your verse? It's about lying?
Well, I spoke on it, and then he spoke on it, and he actually came to the class and spoke on that, and he spoke on it again.
He spoke on it twice?
I just want to speak on the reasons why devotees are lying.
But he spoke on it twice?
Yeah.
Okay. Covering different points?
Yeah.
So that verse was spoken on 3 times then, huh?
Right.
Oh. Okay. Okay, chapter 21, summary. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 21, chapter 21, 8th canto. Bali Mahārāja arrested by the Lord. This chapter describes how Lord Vishnu, desiring to advertise the glories of Bali Mahārāja, arrested him for not fulfilling his promise in regard to the Lord's third step. With the second step, the Supreme Personality of Godhead reached the topmost planet of the universe, Brahmaloka, which he diminished in beauty by the effulgence of his toenails. Thus, Lord Brahma, accompanied by great sages like Marichi and the predominating deities of all the higher planets, offered humble prayers and worship to the Lord. They washed the Lord's feet and worshipped him with all paraphernalia. Riksharaj Jambavan played his bugle to vibrate the glories of the Lord. When Bali Mahārāja was deprived of all his possessions, the demons were very angry. Although Bali Mahārāja warned them not to do so, they took up weapons against Lord Vishnu. All of them were defeated. However, by Lord Vishnu's eternal associates, and in accordance with Bali Mahārāja's order, they all entered the lower planets of the universe. Understanding Lord Vishnu's purpose, Garuda, the carrier of Lord Vishnu, immediately arrested Bali Mahārāja with the ropes of Varuna. When Bali Mahārāja was thus reduced to a helpless position, Lord Vishnu asked him for the third step of land. Because Lord Vishnu appreciated Bali Mahārāja's determination and integrity, when Bali Mahārāja was unable to fulfill his promise, Lord Vishnu ascertained that the place for him would be the planet Sutala, which is better than the planets of heaven. Okay. So I'll just read first 3 verses and we can chant the 4th one together. Shukadeva Goswami continued, when Lord Brahma, who was born of a lotus flower, saw that the effulgence of his residence, Brahmaloka, had been reduced by the glaring effulgence from the toenails of Lord Vamanadev, he approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Brahma was accompanied by all the great sages, headed by Marichi, and by yogis like Sanandana. But in the presence of that glaring effulgence, O king, even Lord Brahma and his associates seemed insignificant. Among the great personalities who came to worship the lotus feet of the Lord were those who had attained perfection in self-control and regulative principles, as well as experts in logic, history, general education, and the Vedic literature known as Kalpa, dealing with old historical incidents. Kalpa. Others were expert in the Vedic corollaries like Brahma Samhita, all the other knowledge of the Vedas, Sama, Yajur, Rig, and Atharva, and also the supplementary Vedic knowledge, Aryaveda, Dhanurveda, etc. Others were those who had been freed of the reactions to fruitive activities by transcendental knowledge awakened by practice of yoga. And still others were those who had attained residence in Brahmaloka, not by ordinary karma, but by advanced Vedic knowledge. After devotedly worshipping the upraised lotus feet of the Supreme Lord with oblations of water, Lord Brahma, who was born of the lotus emanating from Lord Vishnu's navel, offered prayers to the Lord. So please repeat after me. Datu Kamandalu Jalam Tad Udukramasya Padavanejana Pavitrataya Narendra Swarudini Abun Navasi Sa Patati Imarshti Loka Trayam Bhagavato Vishadeva Kirtihi Datu Kamandala Jalam Tadaru Kramasya Padavane Jana Pavitrataya Narendra Swardunya Bunna Basisa Patiti Nimarshti Lokatrayam Bhagavato Vishadeva Kirtihi Dhatu Kamandalujalam Tadarukramasya Padavane Jana Pavitrataya Narendra Swadunya Bunna Basisa Patiti Namarshti Lokatrayam Bhagavato Vishadeva Kirtihi I think you'd open the door. There's a magnet, right? Any online reciters?
Tatu kamandalu jalam tarurukramasya Padavane jana pavitrataya narendra Vardunya bunna vasisa patati nimashti Lokatrayam Bhagavato Vishadeva Kirti
Dhatuhu of Lord Brahma. Kamandalu Jalam, water from the Kamandalu. Tat, that. Arukramasya of Lord Vishnu. Pada avanejana. Pavitrataya. Because of washing the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu and thus being transcendently pure. Nada Indra, O King. Swarduni, river named Swarduni of the celestial world. Abut, so became. Nabasi, in outer space. Sa, that water. Patati, flowing down. Nimarshti, purifying. Lokatrayam, the three worlds. Bhagavataha, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vishadha, so purified. Eva, just like. Kirtihi, the fame or the glorious activities. O king, the water from Lord Brahma's Kamandalu washed the lotus feet of Lord Vamanadev, who is known as Arukrama, the wonderful actor. Thus that water became so pure that it was transformed into the water of the Ganges, which went flowing down from the sky, purifying the three worlds like the pure fame of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. Here we understand that the Ganges began when the water from Lord Brahma's Kamandalu washed the lotus feet of Lord Vamanadev. But in the 5th canto it is stated that the Ganges began when Vamanadev's left foot pierced the covering of the universe so that the transcendental water of the causal ocean leaked through. And elsewhere it is also stated that Lord Narayan appeared as the water of the Ganges. The water of the Ganges, therefore, is a combination of the 3 transcendental waters, and thus the Ganges is able to purify the 3 worlds. This is the description given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So we'll read on. Lord Brahma and all the predominating deities, this is text 5, of the various planetary systems began to worship Lord Vamanadev, their supreme master, who had reduced himself from his all-pervading form to his original form. They collected all the ingredients and paraphernalia for this worship. Purport. Vamanadev first expanded himself to the universal form and then reduced himself to the original Vamana Rupa. Thus he acted exactly like Lord Krishna, who at the request of Arjuna first showed his universal form and later resumed his original form as Krishna. The Lord can assume any form he likes, but his original form is that of Krishna. Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. According to the capacity of the devotee, the Lord assumes various forms so that the devotee can handle him. This is his causeless mercy. When Lord Vamanadev resumed his original form, Lord Brahma and his associates collected various paraphernalia for worship with which to please him. 6, 7. They worshipped the Lord by offering fragrant flowers, water, padya and argya, sandalwood pulp and a guru pulp, incense, lamps, fused rice, unbroken grains, fruits, roots, and sprouts. While so doing, they offered prayers indicating the glorious activities of the Lord and shouted, Jai, Jai. They also danced, played instruments, sang, sounded conch shells, and beat kettle drums. In this way, worshiping the Lord. So fragrant flowers is an important part of worship. Bhajanarayan Swami likes to quote from the Agni Purana. Anyone read that lately? That the offering of fragrant flowers to the deities is more pleasing than so many valuable jewels. So we have plenty of flowers here on the property. I don't know about plenty, we could always use more, but plumerias, jasmines, sometimes gardenias, different flowers, roses are growing. So yeah, pujaris and deity backup people, devotees should go pick all of those and then offer them to the deities, rather than picking these ones we buy from the store that don't have any fragrance. Like this rose. It has something, actually. But carnations have something. It's a fragrance, but it's a type of fragrance. But in comparison to all these other flowers here that are growing, these are much better. Just like if you analyze, like, what's the best offering for Krishna? It's one that has been grown by devotees with love and devotion, picked by devotees with love and devotion, then offered with love and devotion. That's the best. So rather than grown by non-devotees, picked by non-devotees, bought by devotees, and cooked by devotees. So at least with the flowers, we could try in that way. And the nectar of devotion, Rupa Goswami says, out of the offenses in deity worship, it's an offense to offer flower without fragrance. there was a big push in the leadership meetings, and Vaisheshika Prabhu was really pushing that amongst the temples. Because, he visits a lot of temples, and then they pass around the flower, and then you try to smell it, and there's nothing there, Here, smell the flower, Prabhu. It's a type of insanity in a sense, right? Smell the flower. It's like, well, there's nothing to smell. Why are you giving this to me? Why do you give it to Krishna? Anyways, so he was pushing for this, and I'm not sure how many of the temples follow, but and following that particular standard, he just introduced, I guess they grow or buy or whatever, just pretty much they just offer gardenias every single time. You'd say they have some money to do that, ISV or whatever, but the principle's there. So this is what Lord Brahma this is being described, that he offered fragrant flowers, water. So we should try to offer the best. These flowers going around. 8. Jambavan, king of the bears, also joined in the ceremony. Sounding his bugle in all directions, he declared a great festival for Lord Vamadeva's victory. When the demonic followers of Maharaj Bali saw that their master, who had been determined in performing sacrifice, had lost all his possessions to Vamanadev, who had taken them away on the plea of begging 3 paces of land, they were very angry and spoke as follows. This Vamana is certainly not a Brahmin, but the best of cheaters, Lord Vishnu. Assuming the form of a Brahmin, he has covered his own form, and thus he is working for the interest of the demigods. Our Lord, Bali Mahārāja, because of his position in performing the yajna, has given up the power to punish. Taking advantage of this, our eternal enemy Vishnu, dressed in the form of a brahmachari beggar, has taken away all his possessions. Our Lord, Bali Mahārāja, is always fixed in truthfulness, and this is especially so at present, since he has been initiated into performing a sacrifice. Period. He is always kind and merciful toward the Brahmins, and he cannot at any time speak lies. Therefore, it is our duty to kill this Vamanadev, Lord Vishnu. It is our religious principle and the way to serve our master. After making this decision, the demonic followers of Maharaj Bali took up their various weapons with a view to killing Vamanadev. O king, the demons, aggravated by their usual anger, took their lances and tridents in hand, and against the will of Maharaj Bali, they pushed forward to kill Lord Vamanadev. O king, when the associates of Lord Vishnu saw the soldiers of the demons coming forward in violence, they smiled. Taking up their weapons, they forbade the demons to continue their attempt. Nanda, Sunanda, Jaya, Vijay, Prabala, Bala, Kumudaksha, Vishvaksena, Patatrirat, Garuda, Jayanta. We have one devotee, right? Jayanta, is that his name? Yeah. Jayanta, he has a bunch of Prabhupada paraphernalia, like he collected over the years. He has a Vyasa son from Los Angeles. He has, anyways, he has so many things that Prabhupada used and so on. He's thinking about doing like a museum. So maybe we could convince him to put a museum at the Escondido temple. It's a little tough because of some things, some details, but let's see, maybe all those things. I went to his house to see all the Prabhupada items, really nice. Shrutadev, Pushpadanta, and Satvata were all associates of Lord Vishnu. They were as powerful as 10,000 elephants, and now they began killing the soldiers of the demons. When Bali Mahārāja saw that his own soldiers were being killed by the associates of Lord Vishnu, he remembered the curse of Shukracharya and forbade his soldiers to continue fighting. O Viprachitti, O Rahu, O Nemi, please hear my words. Don't fight. Stop immediately, for the present time is not in our favor. O Daityas, by human efforts no one can supersede the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can bring happiness and distress to all living entities. The Supreme Time Factor, which represents the Supreme Person, was previously in our favor, and not in favor of the demigods. But now that same time factor is against us. No one can surpass the time representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by material power, by the council of ministers, by intelligence, by diplomacy, by fortresses, by mystic mantras, by drugs, by herbs, or by any other means. Previously, being empowered by providence, you defeated a great number of such foolish followers of Lord Vishnu. But today, those same followers, having defeated us, are roaring in jubilation like lions. Purport. Bhagavad Gita mentions 5 factors, 5 causes of defeat or victory. Of these 5, Daiva, providence, is the most powerful. Nicha Daivat Parambalam. Bali Mahārāja knew the secret of how he had formerly been victorious, because providence was in his favor. Now, since that same providence was not in his favor, there is no possibility of his victory. Thus, he very intelligently forbade his associates to fight. Om Jnanati Balandasya Garanjana Shalaka Chakshuvanvitamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Kariti Vachalam Pangam Langai Tekrim Kipatamaham Vande Shri Gurundi Tadana Mancha Kapatri Bishta Kipa Sindhubevacha Patitanam Pavane Byo Vaishnave Byo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Can you pass me that book, Sankarshan, since you're standing up? So everyone wants to be victorious, but people want to be victorious in different ways. And they have different standards of victory. Like, sometimes I take a walk, this Faneuil Street, and there's a sushi place there. And there's a number of times there's a bunch of guys sitting there, or women or whatever, but people going out to eat. And they have like this huge like plastic, I don't know what it's called, but it's like this plastic container like full of beer, And there's like a spout, and they're all sitting there drinking beer and eating sushi. It's just like real terrible. Can't think of things quite terrible as that, but and sometimes you have such people to show off in front of their friends. They have such devices, and they drink it all, all at once. That's like a victory to them. Yes, I'm a strong, powerful, I have a strong gut or whatever, I have a strong stomach. It's a type of victory you're showing off. Or whatever it is. There's so many things in people's life. Yes, I bought a, what's that car called? It's not a McLaren, but what's it called? McLaren. Yes, I bought a McLaren. I'm sick of victory. And it goes on and on and on. So many ideas of victory in this world. But the real victory is is that we're able to control our senses, our mind and our senses. You could control so many things externally with your power and your money and so many different things, but the real victory is victory over the senses and victory of being Krishna conscious. And that defeat or victory, it is based on different things, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 18, text 14. That there's 5 factors of action, which are the place of action, the body, the performer, the various senses, the many different kinds of endeavor, and ultimately the supersoul. These are the 5 factors of action. So there's many things that come into play when we are discussing our defeat and victory in something. sometimes the question comes because here in this particular verse of 18:14, there's the cheshta, the endeavors. And sometimes it's said that the soul does not do anything, right? We hear that sometimes. The soul just desires. That's all the soul could do, really, just desire. Like, for example, in chapter 4:20, mentions abandoning all attachment to the results of his activities, ever satisfied and independent, he performs no fruit of action, although engaged in all kinds of undertakings. So this idea that the soul, all the soul does is really desire. Or in chapter 5, text 8, a person in the divine consciousness always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping, breathing, speaking, evacuating, receiving, or opening or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he is aloof. So we could understand that in one sense, the soul doesn't. All the soul could really do is desire. But here, 18:14, it talks about how the different factors of action, how one of them is an endeavor. So then we see in Krishna talking about, like in chapter 9, text 27, there's some talk. Whatever you do, this is talking about endeavor, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. Or we have 1860. Under illusion, you are now declining to act according to my direction, but compelled by the work born of your own nature, you will act all the same, O son of Kunti. And you have 1863. It's a famous one. It's a famous one that Krishna says to Arjuna, of course, but it's also famous in the sense that it would be very helpful if we, in our preaching or trying to help others, really imbibe with this verse. Because this verse this verse helps us understand the very liberal nature of Krishna. And even though he's the supreme controller, he's also supremely detached. Because, again, the tendency in this world is for us to be controllers. One devotee talking about the GBC, Hare Krishna. He was joking, a Prabhupada disciple. He was saying it stands for Great Big Controller. Sura, those of you who know him, was joking about that. But so we want to control things, control people, control things, control the environment, control how people respond to us, so on. So, but we should learn from Krishna, and we should try to be Krishna-like or godly in the sense that he's very detached. And you could say, yeah, that's easy for him to do, right? He's the supreme controller. I could be detached too if I was the supreme controller. But here he says, thus I've explained to you knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do. Sometimes we feel, yes, I've enlightened you with this knowledge. I've spent so much time and energy on you, and now you better pay off. You better shave your head and get a nice shika and join the ashram, or you better at least start chanting Hare Krishna outside of the ashram, or else I felt like I've wasted all my time on you. Or whatever it is. I've given you so many instructions. I've spent hours and hours and hours with you, and you just do the opposite. And now I'm very angry about it. But Krishna here, it's very interesting. He said, I've enlightened you with all of this knowledge. Now just think about it and do what you wish to do. That's all. So it's very good for preachers, for gurus, for preachers, for people, dealing with people, that they try to just, okay, I've told you all this, now just do as you do. So do what you wish to do. But anyways, his last verse is 9:27, 1860, 1863. It is talking about how the soul acts, how the soul endeavors. So it's both. In a sense, you could say all the soul does is desire, but there's also, in another sense, the soul endeavors. So the demons here, it's not their time. They had their time in the past. They had their time of success, their time of victory. Bali Mahārāja, he conquered the whole universe. And now the demons are trying to act, but Bali Mahārāja is saying, don't do it. You know, this isn't the time. You should just be humble now. And the demons say, forget about it, and they just charge, and they get killed by the same people they defeated. So yes, there's a particular time, there's a particular place, there's a particular, and of course, ultimately, Krishna's sanction that allows things. Years ago, I was distributing books with Bhagavatam Prabhu. We were in Los Angeles, going to the Hispanic parts of the city, and his particular idea was that when he would go out to distribute books, he'd always listen to Prabhupada lecture. So he's listening to a lecture, and in one lecture, Srila Prabhupada says, if we go to a rich man and we ask him for some money or take some books or so on, and he doesn't take them, we shouldn't be sorry about that. We should understand that Krishna in his heart has not sanctioned it. Bhagavatam Prabhu really liked that. Because you got a book distribution, you need some philosophy to try to process all the no's and everything. So he's not so fortunate. So in that way, there's so many, and in every single case, we should try to endeavor for what? For spreading Krishna consciousness, for trying to help others fulfill the prediction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that his name will be broadcast in every town and village. So we endeavor, but ultimately, it's up to Krishna, but we should try. But ultimately, as Krishna makes the point in the Bhagavad Gita, in our trying in Krishna consciousness, our endeavor is never a failure, ultimately. It's always good for us. Even if we try to do something and it's not externally successful, it's always good for us. That's the wonderful thing. So there's many opportunities. It's a big world. It's a big San Diego. It's a big country. There's many opportunities to try to give Krishna consciousness to others. And people, fortunate people, will take to it and they will benefit. And ultimately will be victorious. So does anybody have any question or comment? Yes, Ankush. Mike's by you.
I was wondering if you could kind of comment. You kind of mentioned it on Bali Mahārāja's like humbleness or his humility. I want to see how that actually kind of like brought him closer to Vamana Deva Krishna, and how does that kind of like how to apply that in our own like kind of relationships and whatnot.
Yeah, in Narendra Prabhu's Vyasa Puja offering this year, he talks about how humility is the thing that will solve all problems. Pretty interesting. If you analyze a lot of the problems in the world, it's or the problems we may have had, we may not be terribly if they say puffed up or astronomically puffed up or something like that. But maybe we could have been more humble, like as a blade of grass. I remember some of the issues I've encountered over the years with devotees and so on, and yeah, I mean, if I was more humble in my dealings with them, then the situation would have been very much pacified. It wouldn't have exploded into a hole. So yes, Krishna really appreciates that humility, and yeah, Bali Mahārāja is displaying that humility in the ultimate sense of him acknowledging that I don't own anything and it's all yours, so I'm going to surrender the universe to you. And we should also remember that it's not that Krishna is just demanding us to be humble. It's not like he's a big boss, controller, and so on. But of course he is the boss and controller, but he's also humble. He's washing Sudama's lotus feet. He's offering arti. He's washing all the members of the Rajasur sacrifice their feet when they're coming in. He's also very humble. He's accepting a leaf, a flower, a fruit. Is that not humble, right? If you go to somebody's house and they offer you a leaf, I'm not sure. Yeah. So anyways, I hope that. Any other question? Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Speaking nicely. I like the point that you made about Krishna being supremely detached, and I just want to ask a question on that point.
Yes.
Since you've quite experienced in preaching, and you obviously had that happen in life, that you had to kind of detach yourself from the result of preaching, and maybe you could share with us, what did you learn in those experiences?
Yeah, what do I learn? Yeah, I mean, naturally when we're trying to give Krishna consciousness to others, we want them to take it, and we want them to become devotees, and we want them to surrender and so on, but maybe sometimes we may invest a lot of energy in someone and they just flip, they go the opposite direction. I mean, people have that experience with disciples. I mean, you could imagine you just pour all this energy and time, and the disciple just flips on you. So yeah, I've had an experience of trying to help others, and then just kind of going the opposite direction, or doing something that I just thought was really foolish. But I remember I was trying to convince somebody not to do something in their life, and I spent quite a lot of time, like a couple hours, talking to them about it, and then they just went and did it. But I reached out to one senior devotee before they did it, and he said something interesting. He said, yes, I'm free to speak with him, that's fine, but he said, I'm not going to try to I'm not going to tell him what to do. I'm just going to explain the consequences behind his actions, and then I'll leave it to him what to do. So yeah, through that experience and through so many experiences, I have some realization that, yeah, people are going to do what they want, ultimately. And it's not really my place or in my control. So what I could do is just try to help them as far as possible, and then ultimately just they're going to do what they want to do. So yeah, I did learn that, at least to some degree, I could say.
That's the model you get from the Gita.
Yes.
Krishna says,
Yeah, to be satisfied with that, because I mean everything comes from our Krishna consciousness or our advancement of Krishna consciousness. So we know this philosophy that yes, we're supposed to preach and be detached from the results. But over time, we see how practically things don't go according to our desire. And by our advancement in Krishna consciousness, or our advancement in the understanding of Krishna consciousness, we can accept that. We just accept it. I mean, it's fine. So yeah, you could say I've learned to, at least to some degree, just accept. You have to, or else you'll probably go insane. Maybe it's out of necessity. You know, if I was so disturbed about things like that, then maybe I have a really hard time keeping my whatever sanity I have. So.
Nice, thank you.
All right. Any online comment, question? Hare Krishna. Where's Dharma Setu? I'm not sure where he went, but he will be here. Where is it? Okay, he took a hike. Okay. So he will be back next Tuesday. So thank you all very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.